Sent on a routine condolence mission, Black Pilot unknowingly awakens a millennia-old alien armor. Finding himself at the center of a war against an ancient enemy, the ship tore through the planet's atmosphere, descending toward the crystal spires of New Concordia. In the ship's ready room, Marcus Vega checked his uniform. He was 52, but still fit, his athletic build filling out the blues of the United Earth Coalition UEC, though his hair was lightly streaked with gray. 30 years in service. Approaching Royal Platform 7, the AI pilot announced, its voice crisp. Conditions optimal. Planet is mid-afternoon. Marcus nodded in acknowledgement. Emperor Theron had died suddenly, and he was en route to offer condolences to Princess Lyra and to present the Coalition's proposal for expanded military cooperation. A simple diplomatic courier job, but nothing about this mission felt simple. The UEC didn't send its decorated combat pilots on milk runs like this, especially to backwater worlds like Stellara that most folks on Earth couldn't even find on a star chart. I should be above this. Drop the package and bounce, Marcus muttered to himself. The ship executed a soft landing. Marcus gave himself one last check. He stepped off the extending platform. The air outside was sweet, reminiscent of flowers. Very different from Earth, for armored guards met him as he disembarked. They escorted Marcus toward the palace. It was a massive structure, a testament to the Empire's scale. Just a few steps inside, Princess Lyra greeted them. She didn't match the briefing files. Luminous pink skin, blonde hair, and violet eyes. Every inch the princess. Commander Marcus Vega, welcome to Stellara. You must be weary from your travels. Please, the princess said. Your Majesty, on behalf of the United Earth Coalition Council, I offer our deepest condolences for your loss. Emperor Theron was held in high regard in Coalition space. The princess seemed lost in thought. Grief, exhaustion, and the weight of her father's death, all the burden falling to her. Then she collected herself. Thank you, she said, gesturing deeper into the palace. Let us speak somewhere less formal. As they walked, Marcus couldn't help but notice how her ceremonial gown of deep purple and silver embroidery moved with her graceful steps. The royal guards, Omel as the briefing had noted, walked silently beside them. I'm surprised they sent you, Lyra said. We were expecting a diplomat. Marcus smiled. The Coalition chose me to ensure the security of the message, given the troubled times we're in. Yes, you're right, the princess said, leading the way to her study. It was a private study, small for royalty, filled with books and antiques. Marcus explained the Coalition's offer. Security had been heightened after the Emperor's death. Lyra listened intently, never interrupting. Marcus Vega, I understand your message, but it seems the Coalition's interest in our planet involves more than just a simple protection detail. Marcus maintained his composure. The Coalition values all its member planets equally, Your Majesty. The princess laughed. We both know that's not true. She rose from her seat. Perhaps after you've rested, we can speak more honestly. I want to show you something. Before Marcus could reply, she started walking toward the wall at the back of the room. An ancestral heirloom. Commander, aren't you curious? Should Marcus have accepted this mysterious invitation? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep up with this adventure. The challenge in her voice ignited something in Marcus. That old combat pilot instinct that had seen him through impossible missions, ignoring every diplomatic protocol screaming in his head. Marcus stepped after her through the wall, which melted at her touch, revealing a staircase spiraling down toward the planet's core. Where exactly are we going, Princess? He asked, sharply aware of how alone they were. To the Vault of Echoes, she replied, a new edge in her voice. Where we keep the treasures of our golden age. From before, we were your valued Coalition partner. The bitterness in those last words hit Marcus like a slap. The intel briefing had painted Stellara as a grateful protectorate, happy for Earth's protection. The woman leading him into the palace depths was far from grateful. They entered a massive, circular chamber that took Marcus's breath away. A soft, blue-white light emanated from the walls themselves. No visible source, just pure luminescence. The perimeter was lined with display cases containing devices and artifacts that looked more like art than technology. And in the center, on a raised dais, sat a suit of armor, looking dusty and neglected. A stark contrast to the meticulously kept items around it. Here it is, Commander, Lyra said with a theatrical flair. Stellara's glorious past, a time when we were innovators and creators. not just a strategic outpost for your coalition's expansion. Marcus approached one of the cases. Captivated, the device inside looked like a cross between a medical scanner and a musical instrument. These technologies, I've never seen anything like them in the coalition databases. That's because they predate your coalition by thousands of years, she replied, stepping beside him, close to close. He could feel the warmth radiating from her pink skin. My ancestors understood science as your people are only now beginning to grasp. And yet, you joined the coalition, Marcus pointed out. Not by choice, she said quietly. Then, as if she'd revealed too much, she composed herself, brightened, and gestured to the central display. This armor belonged to our greatest warrior, Kill the Watcher. Legend says it chooses its wielder. No one could simply put it on. It hasn't activated for anyone in over 1,000 years. Marcus studied the ancient armor. Despite the dust, there was something oddly familiar in its design, something almost organic in the way the plates articulated. It looks like it's seen better days. Lyra's lips quirked in a mischievous smile that suddenly made her look younger. Want to try it on, Commander? Just for fun, of course. Every instinct Marcus had developed in 30 years of service was screaming danger. Is that appropriate? I mean, it's clearly sacred to your people. Oh, it's just a relic now, she said, waving a hand in a gesture that seemed a little too dismissive. Nothing happens when our people touch it. Maybe human hands will provide some amusement. Marcus caught the test in her voice. She was challenging him, seeing how he'd react. Maybe trying to prove something about Earthmen, about him. All right, he said, approaching the armor with the same calm he used when walking to his fighter. Before an impossible mission, I guess it can't hurt to try. The moment his fingers brushed the dusty breastplate, the universe changed. A blue-white energy flared across the armor's surface like lightning, illuminating patterns and sigils he hadn't been able to see in the dim light. The entire suit began to vibrate, humming at a frequency Marcus felt in his bones. Then, impossibly, it began to disassemble itself, each piece hovering in the air for a second before hurtling toward him like iron to a magnet. What the? Was all he could manage before the armor began to bond to his body. The sensation was indescribable. It was a living metal flowing over him, conforming perfectly to his human physiology despite being designed for a Stellaran. It wasn't cold, but warm, as if it wasn't just encasing him, but integrating with his skin. Information flooded his mind. Star charts he'd never seen, weapon systems beyond Earth tech, battle strategies from civilizations that had turned to dust thousands of years. Before humans learned to make fire, across the room, Princess Lyra was frozen, a hand raised to her lips, her violet eyes wide with shock. Impossible, she whispered as the helmet sealed around his head. Marcus felt a wave of power surge through every cell. The armor system sensed with his neural pathways, his reflexes, his very thoughts. When he finally found his voice, it came out altered by the helmet systems, deeper, resonating with harmonic frequencies. Princess, he said, what's happening to me? Their eyes met across the room, his now glowing blue from within the helmet's visor. Lyra's wide with a mixture of disbelief and something else. Fear, hope, the prophecy, she whispered. All this time, we thought it referred to a Stellaran savior returning from exile. What prophecy? Marcus demanded, trying to process the flood of data still pouring into his consciousness. Ancient wars, cosmic threats, technologies that made coalition science look like cave paintings. Before she could answer, an alarm blared. Through the palace, a sound his newly enhanced senses identified as a proximity alert. Lyra's wrist com chimed urgently. Majesty, a panicked voice reported. Unidentified vessels have breached orbital security. They are not responding to hails and are deploying dropships. Unknown configuration, unknown intent. Lyra's expression hardened, her pink skin darkening with an emotion Marcus recognized as rage. It seems, Commander Vega, your coalition's protection has arrived late. We are under attack. The palace shuddered as something massive impacted the upper levels. Dust and crystal fragments rained from the vault ceiling. We have to go up, Marcus said, his voice strange to his own ears, filtered through the helmet's systems. The armor felt impossibly light despite its solid appearance, responding to his movements like a second skin. Your people are in danger. Lyra grabbed his armored forearm, her touch sending an unexpected jolt through the armor systems. Wait, you don't understand what's happened to you, what that armor means. Explanations can wait, he replied, already moving toward the spiral staircase. People are dying right now. She moved to block his path, her violet eyes locking with his through the helmet's visor. The armor chose you, Marcus. After 1,000 years of sleep, it recognized something in you, something worthy. This is no accident. Another explosion, closer this time. The chamber lights flickered. Fine, Marcus relented. Quick version. Taught. The prophecy spoke of an outsider who would awaken our greatest weapon in our darkest hour. She explained rapidly. We always assumed it was a Stellaran from off-world. Never one from Earth. Never a human. Marcus could feel the armor, continuing to adjust, calibrating to his body with every second. Through the neural link, he was beginning to understand its capabilities: energy manipulation, enhanced strength and speed, defensive shielding, weapon systems that made Coalition plasma rifles look like slingshots. And this armor is that weapon, he stated. It's more than armor, Lara replied, her voice taking on an almost reverent tone. It was designed for one purpose. What is it? Her expression darkened. To fight the Devourers, the very creatures attacking us right now. Well, Marcus's new power be enough to save Stellara? Post your theories about the story in the comments. The armor systems suddenly projected information into Marcus's mind. Ancient wars against shadow-like entities that consumed worlds. Entire civilizations falling to an insatiable hunger from the void between stars. How do you know it's them? He asked, though something deep in the armor's programming was already resonating with certainty. The energy signatures are unmistakable, she said, looking at a device on her wrist. Our sensors detected void breaches in orbit. They haven't attacked Stellara in generations. Not since we joined the Coalition and became less interesting to them. Marcus cross-referenced this with his briefing materials. There was no mention of any Devourers. Either Coalition intelligence was fatally incomplete, or someone had deliberately kept the Earth military in the dark. They left us in the dark, he murmured. What? Nothing. Marcus straightened, feeling the armor's power thrumming inside him like electricity in a copper wire. Show me the fastest way to the surface. I need to see what we're up against. Lara studied him for a long moment, searching his face through the helmet's translucent visor. Then she nodded. This way. There's a faster route than the stairs. She led him to a solid wall, placed her palm against a specific spot, and whispered something in a language that sounded like music. The wall dissolved, revealing a transport tube. This will take us directly to the command center, she explained as they stepped inside. The tube ascended rapidly. The G-forces that should have pinned Marcus to the floor somehow nullified by the armor. In the confined space, he was acutely aware of Lyra's proximity. The armor seemed to have enhanced all his senses, the faint floral scent of her hair, the warmth radiating from her pink skin, the sound of her quickened breath. She must have noticed his focus, because her lips quirked in a knowing smile. Despite the dire circumstances, the armor responds to your emotional state as well. Commander, your vitals are elevated right now. Marcus cleared his throat, grateful for the helmet that hid his expression. Professional concern for the situation, of course, she replied, her tone implying she knew better. Though I must admit, I find human physiology quite fascinating, even before the armor chose you. The transport tube slowed, saving Marcus from having to respond to her unexpected flirtation. The doors opened to reveal controlled chaos, Stellaran. Officers monitoring defense systems, comm channels overloaded with urgent reports, and holographic displays showing the city under assault from above. Majesty, an older male officer hurried forward, relief playing on his face. Thank the ancients you're safe. The palace shields are holding, but the city's outer defenses have been breached. The Devourers are deploying ground forces. General Thris, Lara said, her voice formal. This is Commander Marcus Vega of the United Earth Coalition. He has activated the Watcher armor. The general's eyes widened as he took in the glowing patterns on Marcus's armor. Impossible. No outsider. Apparently, this outsider did. Lara cut in. And according to the prophecy, that makes him our greatest hope. Marcus stepped forward, the armor moving with fluid precision. I need to see what we're fighting. General, Thris hesitated, then gestured to a large viewing screen. See for yourself, human. The screen showed real-time feeds from across New Concordia. Dark, shifting forms were moving through the street screechers that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, leaving trails of decay and withered organic matter wherever they touched. The Devourers consume life energy, Lara explained quietly, standing right beside him. They leave nothing but empty husks behind. As Marcus watched, something stirred in the armor, and in him, a deep, primal recognition. The armor had been created to fight this specific enemy, and now it was downloading the knowledge of how to do it into him. I know how to stop them, he said, surprising even himself as the words came out. Lara turned to him, hope flickering in her violet eyes, along with something more intimate. Then we will fight them. Together, Commander. Their gazes locked for a moment that lasted too long to be purely professional. Despite the dire situation, or perhaps because of it, an undeniable charge crackled between them like static before a storm. Majesty, General Thriss interrupted. Protocols are clear. You must evacuate to the secure bunker immediately. Those protocols were written before the prophecy was fulfilled, she countered, not taking her eyes off Marcus. My place is with our champion. The word champion sent an unexpected thrill through Marcus. The armor responded, power flaring through its circuits like an uncontrolled fire. I don't know if I'm a champion yet, he said, but I'm damn sure ready to find out. Lara moved closer, placing her hand on his armored chest plate, even through the advanced material. He felt her touch like a brand. The armor doesn't make mistakes, Marcus. It saw something in you that no one else did, something worthy of Stellar's greatest legacy. The proximity of her touch sent another surge of energy through the armor systems. Marcus was beginning to suspect the armor's response to his attraction to her was not accidental. It seemed to draw power from emotional intensity. Then let's not disappoint your ancestors, he replied, his voice coming out deeper than he'd intended. Her answering smile was both fierce and alluring. We won't, Commander. We absolutely won't. Asterisk, the suit's primary function is energy manipulation, Lara explained as they moved swiftly through the palace corridors toward the city's defense line. It can absorb, channel, and redirect various forms of energy. It's particularly effective against the Devourers' energy parasites that are, in essence, living energy. Marcus nodded, feeling the armor systems confirm her words via direct neural feedback. It was like a voice in his head, only it wasn't a voice. It was pure information flowing into his consciousness. I can feel it, teaching me, showing me how to use its abilities. That's the neural interface, Lara replied, keeping pace with his enhanced strides. Our ancestors designed it to integrate completely with the wearer. The longer you remain bonded, the deeper the integration becomes. They reached the palace's outer defensive position. Stellar soldiers were holding a desperate defense behind shimmering energy shields. Beyond the shields, the shadowy forms of the Devourers moved like a living darkness, consuming everything in their path: light, heat, life itself. Your Majesty, a young soldier saluted, his face pale with fear. The Eastern shield is failing. We can't hold them much longer. Lara turned to Marcus, her violet eyes sharp. A perfect time to demonstrate those newfound abilities, Commander. Marcus stepped forward, his instincts guiding his movements. He raised his hand toward the flickering shield, and the armor responded instantly, channeling energy through his arm and projecting it outward in a focused stream. The failing shield suddenly flared, glowing with a renewed intensity that repelled the encroaching darkness. Impressive, Lara murmured, standing right beside him. That was just reinforcement, Marcus replied, surprised at how naturally the knowledge came to him. It was as if he were remembering something he'd always known. Let's see what else this thing can do. He passed through the shield, feeling it part around him like water. Lara followed immediately, ignoring the protests of her guards. The moment they crossed the threshold, several Devourers sensed their presence and lunged forward amorphous shadows with glowing points. Where eyes might be on a more conventional creature, they were even more disturbing up close. They didn't so much move as flow, like oil slicks given a terrible purpose. They're drawn to life energy, Lara warned, her own weapon something elegant and lethal-looking, charging with a high-pitched whine. And you were practically broadcasting it right now. Marcus felt the armor guide his movements, his marine combat training merging seamlessly with ancient stellar and battle knowledge. He extended both arms, and bright beams of concentrated energy shot out, striking the advancing Devourers head-on. Where the energy hit, the creature screamed a sound like tearing metal that set Marcus's teeth on edge. Parts of their shadowy forms dissipated like smoke in a high wind. It's working, he yelled, advancing with the confidence of a pilot who had just mastered his craft's controls. Marcus, be careful, Lara called out, firing her own weapon at a Devourer that was flanking them. The armor draws power from your life force when you use its offensive capabilities. He barely heard her warning as he engaged more creatures, feeling a rush of exhilaration with every successful strike. This was better than flying. Hell, this was better than anything he'd ever experienced. The suit moved in perfect sync with him, anticipating his intent before he'd even fully formed it. It was only after he'd dispatched a dozen Devourers that he noticed the exhaustion. A deep fatigue spread through his muscles, a feeling of weight that hadn't been there moments before. His breathing grew labored, and he saw on his helmet's display that his biosigns were dipping into the yellow. "You need to pace yourself," Lyra said, suddenly at his side again. "The armor will consume you if you let it." "Could have told me that sooner," Marcus grunted, feeling another wave of fatigue as he blasted another Devourer that got too close. "Would it have changed your decision to fight?" she asked, her violet eyes challenging him through his visor. "No," he admitted. "Marcus's power comes at a heavy price. Will he be able to stop before the armor consumes him?" If you love epic sci-fi adventures like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Her lips curved in that all-knowing smile again. "I thought as much. You humans and your heroic impulses, so predictable and yet somehow fascinating." Despite the battle raging around them, Marcus found himself responding to her wry tone. "Is that what you find fascinating about humans? Our heroic impulses, among other qualities," she replied, firing her weapon at an approaching shadow with lethal precision. "Your species has a vitality that is quite rare in the galaxy. I suspect it's why the armor chose you." They fought through the city streets, pushing back the Devourer advanced block by block. With every blast of energy Marcus unleashed, he felt his strength diminish. But the results were undeniable. The creatures were reeling from his attacks, recoiling in a way they didn't from the conventional Stellaran weapons. After what felt like hours of intense combat, they reached a momentary lull in a ruined plaza. Marcus leaned against a wall, breathing heavily. The suit's systems were flashing warnings across his vision, energy reserves depleted. Biological hosts showing signs of critical fatigue. Lyra approached, genuine concern in her expression. "You need to rest. The armor is draining you too quickly." "Can't stop now," Marcus panicked. "We're making progress." She placed her hand on his arm or chest, and Marcus was shocked to feel the touch as if nothing were between them. Her warmth, the slight pressure of her palm, everything. "The armor enhances all senses," she explained, noticing his reaction. "Another feature our ancestors included, to keep the wearer grounded in their physical self, to remember they are still flesh and blood beneath the metal." Her hand remained on his chest, and Marcus became acutely aware of how close she was standing, how her eyes seemed to glow in the dim light of the ruined street, how her pink skin flushed slightly darker when she looked at him. "There are ways to replenish the energy the suit consumes," she said, her voice dropping to a more intimate tone. "I'm listening," Marcus replied, aware of his suddenly rapid heartbeat. "Our ancestors discovered that certain intense experiences generate extraordinary amounts of life energy," Lyra continued, her fingers tracing patterns on his armor that somehow sent shivers across his skin beneath. "Combat is one such experience. Fear is another." And Marcus prompted when she paused. "And there are more pleasurable methods," she finished, her gaze direct and unflinching. Despite his exhaustion, Marcus felt a wave of heat that had nothing to do with the battle they just fought. "Princess, are you implying what I think you're implying?" "I am merely being practical, Commander," she replied, though her smile belied the coolness of her words. "The bond between the armor and its wearer is sacred to my people. In ancient times, it was common for the chosen warrior to strengthen their bond through a ritualistic intimacy with a royal consort. And you're volunteering for this ritual?" Marcus asked, unable to hide the disbelief in his voice. Lyra's expression turned serious. "My people are dying. Marcus, if there is a way to empower you, to give you the energy you need to save them, do you think I would hesitate because of some outdated sense of decorum?" Before he could answer, the suit's sensors alerted him to nearby movement. From the direction of the palace, a new Devourer was approaching, larger and different from the ones they had faced. This one was more distinct, almost humanoid in shape. It wore what looked like its own armor made of solidified shadow. "We've got company," Marcus warned, straightening up despite his fatigue. Lyra looked in the direction he indicated and visibly paled, her pink skin turning almost white. "A Devourer Lord. We must retreat." "Now." "What now?" It's like a general to the drones we've been fighting, far more powerful. She grabbed his arm urgently. There's a safe house nearby. We can regroup there. As they hurried through the ruined streets, Marcus felt the armor growing heavier with every step, his energy depletion becoming critical. Warning lights flashed with increasing urgency across his vision. By the time they reached the hidden entrance, Lara led them to a doorway that materialized in what looked like a solid wall he was barely able to stand. The moment the door sealed behind them, Marcus collapsed to his knees, the armor suddenly feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Oh no, Marcus is spent just when he's needed most, and a Devourer Lord is on their tail. Could that ritual Lara mentioned be their only chance? Keep watching to find out. Marcus? Lara knelt beside him, her hands fumbling for the release mechanisms on his helmet. The armor is killing you. We have to get it off. No, he gasped. I can't fight them without it. The armor is useless without you, she countered, successfully removing his helmet with a hiss of seals breaking. The cool air on his face was a shock after hours of enclosure. Lyra's worried face swam blurrily above him, her platinum hair falling like a curtain around them both. You need energy, she whispered, her face very close now, and I know exactly how to give it to you. The safe house was actually an ancient temple, its walls covered in symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. Marcus lay on a stone platform in the center, the armor still encasing most of his body, save for his head and hands. This place is sacred to my people, Lyra explained, moving about the room, lighting ceremonial lamps that floated in the air without visible support. It is a nexus point where the energy of our world flows strongest. Marcus watched her through half-closed eyes, fighting to stay conscious. The armor, it's showing me things, images, knowledge. Lyra approached, a curious look on her face. What do you see? The Devourers. He struggled to articulate the information flooding his mind. They're not just attacking randomly. They're looking for something hidden in the palace. What could they possibly want? Lara knelt beside him, her cool fingers touching his feverish brow. The core of Stellara, Marcus whispered, the name coming to him from the suit's ancient memory. A power source your ancestors created. The armor was designed to protect it. Lyra's violet eyes widened. The core is just a myth, a legendary crystal said to contain the essence of our world's power. My father spent decades searching for it and found nothing. It's real, Marcus insisted, grasping her hand with what little strength he had left. And somehow, it's connected to humans. To Earth. That's impossible. Our ancestors didn't know about humans. Through the neural link, Marcus saw flashes of ancient history, stellar and ships visiting Earth millennia ago. Genetic material being exchanged, bloodlines deliberately seeded. The armor is showing me. Your ancestors visited Earth thousands of years ago. They left a piece of themselves there, in our genetic code, a failsafe. Understanding dawned in Lyra's eyes. That's why the armor chose you. You carry the blood of my ancestors. Marcus nodded weakly. They knew the Devourers would return one day. They needed someone who could activate the armor if your people forgot how. Someone from outside Stellara. Lyra sat back, processing this revelation. Her pink skin seemed brighter in the temple's soft light. So humans are, what? Distant cousins? Descendants of a specific line. More like an insurance policy, Marcus said. A warrior caste, scattered among the stars. He tried to sit up but failed, the armor suddenly feeling like it weighed tons. Lyra, I can't fight like this. The armor is draining me. Faster than I can recover. Her expression shifted, shock replaced by resolve. Then we begin the ritual. She rose gracefully and began to remove pieces of her ceremonial clothing pieces that had looked ornamental, but were apparently more significant. The ritual requires skin contact with the armor's neural interfaces, she explained, her tone businesslike despite the intimacy of her implications. Marcus watched her approach, his heart pounding. The armor reacted immediately, reconfiguring to expose specific points along his chest and arm's glowing nose that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. These are the transfer points, Lyra explained, kneeling beside him. Her pink skin seemed to almost radiate light this close. The ritual is simple, in theory. I will transfer my life energy to you through the armor systems. The moment her skin touched the glowing nose, Marcus gasped. The sensation was electrica, current of heat and energy that flowed from her touch and into his veins like liquid fire. That's intense, he managed to say. Lyra's lips curved into a smile. We've only just begun. Commander, she moved closer, her silver-streaked hair falling around them like a curtain. In the old times, this ritual was considered the highest honor for both participants. A sacred union of the warrior and the royal bloodline. Is that what we're doing? Marcus asked, his voice thick. Creating a sacred union. We are saving your life, she replied. But her eyes held a deeper meaning, and quite possibly my world. What followed transcended anything in Marcus's considerable experience. As Lyra initiated the full ritual, their energies intertwined in ways he couldn't have imagined. The armor acted as both a conduit and an amplifier, refining the connection between them into something that bridged the gap between their species. Every touch, every shared breath seemed to power not just Marcus, but the suit itself. He could feel his vitality returning, but it was more than just a physical recharge. Something fundamental was changing. A bond was forming between them that went beyond the merely physical. Time lost all meaning in the ancient temple. There was only the growing connection, the merging energies, the discovery of unexpected harmonies between human and stellar physiology. All the while, the armor's systems hummed with increasing power, drawing strength from their union like a battery charging from a cosmic source. When they finally separated, both breathing heavily, Marcus felt completely transformed. Energy flooded him, as if he'd slept for 12 hours and had 3 cups of coffee. The armor was now weightless, responsive to his slightest thought. He started, unable to find the right words. Unprecedented, Lyra finished, her violet eyes shining with residual energy. The armor's power levels are higher than anything I've seen in the historical records. Marcus sat up easily, flexing his armored hands. The fatigue was completely gone, replaced by an almost intoxicating sense of power. I feel like I could take on a whole army of those shadow bastards. The ritual was more effective than anticipated, she said, straightening her clothes with fingers that trembled slightly. Perhaps it is because of the genetic link you mentioned. A comfortable silence settled between them, filled with a new understanding and an unspoken acknowledgement of a bond neither was ready to name. Just yet, the Devourer Lord will be tracking us, Marcus said finally, reluctantly returning to the dire situation they were in. And if what the armor showed me is right, it won't stop until it finds the core. Lyra nodded, her expression growing serious again. Then we must find it first. But if my father couldn't locate it after all those years of searching, it must be hidden somewhere truly unexpected. Marcus closed his eyes, letting the suit's ancient knowledge flow through him without resistance. Images flooded his consciousness, the palace, the throne room, layers of history and meaning. Not unexpected, he said slowly, opening his eyes suddenly. Sacred, the most sacred place in the palace, the imperial throne? Lyra whispered. The throne rests on a dais, doesn't it? Made from the rarest crystal on your world. Yes, my father always said it was symbolic. The ruler drawing power directly from Stellara. Her eyes suddenly lit with understanding. But what if it's not symbolic at all? What if the dais contains the core? Marcus stood, feeling the armor tune perfectly to his movements. Every system was operating at peak efficiency, charged by what had passed between them. Then we need to get back to the palace before that Devourer Lord figures it out. Lyra stepped close to him, placing her hand on his armored chest. The touch still sent a current of energy between them, an echo of their ritual bond causing the suit systems to thrum with power. What we shared, she said quietly, her violet eyes searching his face. It wasn't just about restoring your strength. I know, he replied, covering her hand with his own. Even through the armored glove, he could feel her warmth. In my culture, a bond like that, it means a great deal, she continued. Marcus smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. In mine too, princess. A distant explosion shook the temple, shattering the moment. Dust rained from the ancient ceiling. They're close, Lyra said, retrieving her weapon. Are you ready to face the Devourer Lord? Marcus activated his helmet, which formed seamlessly around his head. He sent her a confident grin through the visor, the same one he'd worn before every impossible mission he'd ever flown. As ready as I'll ever be, princess. Let's go save your world. Together, Lyra said, her voice firm. Together, he agreed. They moved toward the temple entrance, no longer just a human soldier and an alien princess, but something new. Partners bound by choice, by sacrifice, and by an unexpected connection that transcended their different worlds. They sped through the ruined streets of New Concordia as the armor pushed Marcus's speed and strength to levels that would have made his old flight instructor weep with envy. Buildings burned around them, their crystalline structures crumbling like sand castles before a tide under the destroyer assault. "We have to stay hidden," Lyra whispered as they ducked behind a collapsed wall. "The destroyer lord will sense the armor's energy signature if we use it too openly." Marcus nodded, the helmet retracting for a moment so she could see his face. "The palace is still 2 sectors away." At this rate, a scream cut through the night, followed by several more. Children's voices, high and terrified. Lyra froze, her violet eyes widening. The residential district. There are still civilians there. Marcus felt the dilemma instantly. Their primary mission was clear: get to the core before the destroyer lord. Every moment they delayed increased the risk of total failure. But those were children screaming. "We can't just leave them," he said. Knowing he'd already made the decision, Lyra studied him, complex emotions passing over her features. Most species would put the mission ahead of a few lives. "Yeah, well," Marcus replied simply. "I'm not most species." A genuine smile touched Lyra's lips. "No, you're certainly not. It's one of the things I find most fascinating about humans. Your capacity for compassion, even to your own detriment." Was that a stellar compliment? "It was an observation," Lyra replied, though her eyes shined with something warmer. "A rather appreciative one. Do you think Marcus made the right decision? Should the mission come before all else, or do innocent lives take priority? Let me know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button for Marcus's heroic choice." They changed course, heading toward the distress sounds. Rounding a corner, they saw a group of civilians, mostly elderly, and children cowering in the courtyard of a collapsed building, cornered by a pack of destroyers. The shadow-like creatures circled their prey like sharks, seeming to savor their fear before attacking. "I count 15, Lyra whispered. "Too many to fight." Without drawing serious attention, Marcus felt the armor respond to his thoughts, tactical options streaming through the neural interface. "I don't need to fight them directly," he focused, and the armor's energy manipulation systems came online. Instead of projecting the energy as a weapon, he created a dome-like barrier around the civilians, a shimmering shield of blue-white light the destroyers couldn't pass. "Get them to safety," he told Lyra. "I'll hold the shield and distract these things." Lyra hesitated. "The energy drain. I can handle it," Marcus assured her, feeling stronger than before. "Thanks to their ritual bonding. Whatever we did back there, it changed things. The armor is more efficient." "I can feel it." Lyra touched his armored hand briefly, the contact sending a pleasant ripple through the neural interface. "Be careful, Marcus. I'm not ready for what we shared to be just a memory." Before he could reply, Lyra was gone, moving to approach the barrier from the opposite side, where fewer destroyers lurked. Marcus expanded the shield to let her in, then focused on maintaining it while she organized the terrified civilians. The destroyers, realizing the barrier, attacked it with growing fury, their shadowy forms partially dissolving where they touched the bright field. Marcus felt each blow as a dull pressure through the armor's neural link, but the energy drain was manageable, not like the exhaustion he'd felt before. Through the barrier, he watched Lyra leading the civilians into a nearby shelter, her platinum hair gleaming in the dark. Something swelled in his chest: pride, admiration, and something deeper he wasn't quite ready to name. Once the civilians were safely away, Marcus collapsed the barrier and deliberately ran in the opposite direction, drawing the destroyers after him. The creatures followed, just as he'd hoped, their hunger for his life force overriding any strategic thought they possessed. Using the armor's enhanced abilities, he led them on a chase through the ruined streets, staying just ahead of their grasping shadows. When he put enough distance between them and the civilians, he turned to fight. This time, he was smarter. Short, controlled bursts of energy instead of sustained beams, tactical movement instead of brute force. The Marines had taught him to fight smart, not hard, and that training merged perfectly with the armor's ancient combat protocols. One by one, the destroyers fell, while Marcus conserved his strength and energy reserves. By the time Lyra rejoined him, the street was clear, their dissipating shadows leaving no trace they had ever existed. "Impressive," Lyra said, scanning the empty plaza. "You're learning to use the armor more efficiently." "I had a good teacher," Marcus replied, retracting his helmet with a smirk. Lyra's expression turned serious. "The civilians told me something disturbing. The Destroyer Lord has taken hostages at the palace, including General Thriss. He's torturing them for information about the core." Marcus's satisfaction evaporated. "Can Thriss hold out?" "He doesn't know the location of the core," None of them do. That secret was entrusted only to the royal line. Lyra looked away, her pain evident. But that won't stop the Destroyer Lord from taking everything else they know, that we move faster. Marcus said, his face hardening. They continued toward the palace, taking a more direct route, stealth seeming less important than speed now. The destruction grew worse as they neared the royal sector. Entire buildings were reduced to rubble, and the beautiful gardens that once surrounded the palace were withered and black. Leads to their vibrant color. It's feeding, Lyra explained, her voice tight with anger. The Destroyer Lord consumes life energy on a massive scale. Everything it touches dies. They stopped at the edge of the palace grounds, taking cover behind the toppled statue of a Stellaran hero. The once grand structure was partially collapsed, dark energy swirling around its towers like malevolent storm clouds. I can sense the hostages, Marcus said suddenly, the armor feeding him tactical data through the neural link. They're in the throne room, with something else, something cold. The Destroyer Lord, no doubt, Lyra replied. He must suspect something about the throne itself. As Marcus studied the palace, the armor systems highlighted potential entry points and defensive positions. There's a service entrance on the east side that looks undefended. We can... He stopped abruptly as the armor sensors detected a new presence. A cold, ancient intelligence probing at the edges of his mind like icy fingers. He knows we're here, he whispered. The Destroyer Lord. He can sense the armor. Lyra's hand found his, their fingers lacing together. The contact sent another surge of energy between them, strengthening their bond, making the armor systems hum with increased power. Then we dropped the pretense of stealth, Lyra said, her violet eyes flashing fiercely in the gloom. We go in together, full power. Marcus nodded, feeling the armor respond to his heightened resolve, and to something else. The powerful emotional connection he had with Lyra. The system was drawing on it, pushing its capabilities beyond anything he had experienced before. Together, he agreed, squeezing her hand before releasing it to activate his helmet. As the faceplate sealed shut, he added, when this is over, Princess, you and I have some unfinished business to discuss. Lyra's smile was both fierce and tender. Get us through this, Commander, and I promise you'll find diplomatic relations extremely rewarding, with that promise hanging in the air. They moved toward the palace and the confrontation that awaited. The grand doors to the throne room were warped by dark energy, their once gleaming surfaces now pitted and twisted like melted wax. Marcus placed an armored hand on the doors, feeling the corruption try to seep into the armor systems. The armor is protecting me from whatever this is, he told Lyra, but it's not going to be pleasant inside. Lyra nodded grimly, her weapon charged and ready. I can sense the hostages. They're alive, but weak. With a surge of augmented strength, Marcus pushed the doors open. They swung inward with a shriek of tortured metal. The scene that greeted them was a nightmare. The once magnificent throne room was a dark parody of itself. Black energy tendrils pulsed along the walls and ceiling like diseased veins. The hostages General Thriss and a dozen palace guards were suspended in shadowy cocoons. Along the walls, their life force visibly siphoning toward the center of the room. There, on the dais where the imperial throne sat, hovered the Destroyer Lord. Unlike its lesser minions, this creature had a defined form. A tall, thin silhouette with long, gaunt limbs and a crown-like crest of concentrated darkness on its head. Where a face should have been, there was only a vortex of purple-black energy that seemed to pull in the light itself. The throne was partially dismantled. The crystal dais beneath it cracked open to reveal a pulsing blue core of pure energy. The core of Stellara. We're delayed, Lyra whispered. He's found it. The Destroyer Lord turned toward them, its non-face somehow conveying malignant amusement. The chosen warrior arrives, it spoke, its voice a grinding mix of shifting stone and breaking glass. With his mate, how predictable, Marcus stepped forward, the armor humming with power, released the hostages and stepped away from the core. A sound like cracking ice emanated from the creature. A laugh. Your kind always makes demands before understanding the situation. Such a human trait. I understand enough, Marcus retorted, charging his gauntlets. You're consuming this world and its people. That ends here. The Destroyer Lord gestured dismissively, and the energy round the core pulsed brighter. This artifact was wasted on your kind. Do you even comprehend what it truly is? What it can offer to one who is worthy? Enlighten us, Lyra said, her weapon trained on the creature. It is a fragment of pure creation. The Destroyer Lord explained. its voice almost reverent. A piece of the energy that birthed this universe. Your ancestors stole it from the interstitial void, my domain, and used it to build their golden age. Marcus felt the armor confirm this knowledge, ancient data streaming through the neural interface. They didn't steal it. They found it and protected it from beings like you who would corrupt it. A fine distinction. The creature dismissed his words with a wave. The question is, what happens now? It turned its blank face to Marcus. The armor has chosen you, human. It senses your potential. But I can offer you so much more. The shadows around the Destroyer Lord shifted, forming images. Marcus at the head of vast armadas. Worlds bowing before him. Power beyond imagination. Join me, the creature continued. The armor is but a shell of what it could be. With the core's power channeled through it, you could be a god among mortals. Why protect one insignificant world when you could rule thousands? Marcus felt something cold and slick at the edges of his consciousness. The Destroyer Lord was trying to influence him through the armor's neural link. Even more disturbing, a part of him responded to the offer, a whisper of temptation that the armor itself seemed to amplify. If you were in Marcus's place, would you take the offer? Do you think his bond with Lara is strong enough to overcome this dark temptation? Keep watching until the end to see what happens in the finale. Marcus, Lara's voice cut through his thoughts like a lifeline. The armor responds to your desires. Be careful what you wish for. He hurriedly looked at her and saw the fear in her violet eyes. Not of the Destroyer Lord, but for him. The bond they forged during the ritual allowed her to sense the darkness testing his resolve. I didn't come here to rule worlds, Marcus said, focusing on Lara's face as an anchor against the temptation. I came here to deliver a message. The Destroyer Lord's form rippled with anger. And what message is worth refusing godhood? Marcus smiled beneath his helmet. Humanity sends its regards. He surged forward with explosive speed, channeling the energy through the armor in a way he'd never tried. Instead of projecting it outward as a weapon, he created a disruptive field around him, a counter-frequency to the Destroyer Lord's dark energy. The creature shrieked as Marcus collided with it, their energies clashing in a spectacular display of light and shadow. The armor system strained under the assault, warnings flashing across Marcus's vision. While he pressed the attack, meanwhile, Lara moved quickly around the room, firing precise shots that severed the energy tendrils connecting the hostages to the Destroyer Lord's siphoning system. One by one, the cocoons dissolved and the weakened soldiers slumped to the floor. Get them out, Marcus yelled, grappling with the increasingly frantic Destroyer Lord. General Thriss, barely conscious, helped Lara organize the other hostages for extraction. What about the core? He asked weakly. We'll handle it, Lara assured him. Go. As the last hostage cleared the throne room, the Destroyer Lord tore free from Marcus's grasp, retreating to hover protectively over the exposed core. Full. It hissed, its form less stable now, its edges constantly dissolving and reforming. You could have shared its power. Now you will witness its corruption and see it turn against everything you love. The creature plunged its spectral hands into the crystal, which began to shift from a brilliant blue to a diseased purple. The entire palace shuddered as the core's energy was perverted. Marcus, Lara called urgently. The armor was designed to resonate with the core. You have to establish a link before it's fully corrupted. He tried to approach, but the Destroyer Lord threw up a barrier of pure darkness around itself and the core. Every time Marcus touched it, agony lanced through the armor's neural interface, like ice picks driving into his brain. You cannot stop this transformation. The Destroyer Lord gloated. Soon, the core will open a rift large enough to bring my entire legion to this world. Stellara will be only the first to fall. Lara appeared at Marcus's side, her face set with fierce determination. There's another way. The ritual we performed, it created a bond that might be strong enough to purify the core. What are you suggesting? The armor responds to emotional energy, she explained quickly. What we shared in the temple was powerful, but if we focus on that connection while you try to link with the core, we can create an even stronger resonance. Marcus understood immediately. We use our bond to override the corruption. Lara nodded, a faint smile touching her lips despite the dire situation. Poetic, isn't it? Love against the void, is that what this is? Marcus asked, suddenly needing to hear it from her. What else would you call it? Lara replied, her violet eyes locking with his through the helmet's visor. Now, focus on what we share, on what we feel. Let it flow through the armor. Marcus closed his eyes, focusing on the connection they'd forged. Not just the physical intimacy, but the deeper bond that had grown between them, trust, respect, and yes, love. The armor responded, its energy signature shifting, becoming warmer, more vibrant. It's working, Lyra whispered. Now, reach for the core. Marcus extended his hand toward the barrier again, but this time, instead of pain, he felt the darkness crackle and recede before the purified energy flowing from the armor. It couldn't withstand it. The Destroyer Lord screamed in rage and desperation, but it was too late. Marcus's armored hand closed around the partially corrupted core, establishing a direct link. No, the creature wailed. You cannot comprehend its power. It will destroy you both. But as the energy flowed between the core and the armor, Marcus felt only a sense of rightness, of completion. With Lyra at his side, her hand on his shoulder reinforcing their bond, he knew exactly what to do. The core's energy flowed through him, through the armor, purifying as it went. The corruption burned away like morning mist before the sun, and in that moment of perfect connection, Marcus understood it all: the ancient war, the purpose of the armor, why he had been chosen. The Destroyer Lord let out one final, desperate shriek as its connection to the core was severed. Without that tether, its form couldn't maintain integrity in this reality. It imploded, collapsing in on itself, dissolving into harmless particles that scattered like ash on a throne room floor. As the last rift sealed and the core stabilized, Marcus dropped to one knee, the armor systems temporarily overloaded from the massive energy transfer. Lyra knelt beside him, her pink skin flushed from the effort. You did it, she breathed. All the rifts are closed. The destroyers are gone. We did it, Marcus corrected, the helmet retracting to reveal his face. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Lyra smiled, tracing the line of his jaw with gentle fingers. The prophecy never mentioned what happens after the champion saves the world. I guess we get to write that part ourselves, Marcus replied, catching her hand and pressing a kiss to her palm. 3 months later, Marcus stood on the balcony of the royal palace, watching the sun set over a rebuilt New Concordia. With the destroyer threat gone, the city had recovered with remarkable speed. The natural resilience and advanced technology of the Stellarans had made short work of the reconstruction. The armor, now known as the Guardian, had become a part of him in ways he was still discovering. It could be summoned or dismissed at will, but a piece of the core remained embedded in his chest regardless, a permanent reminder of his bond with this world. Soft footsteps approached from behind. He didn't need to turn to know who it was. The core fragment pulsed with a gentle warmth when she was near, responding to their bond. The coalition ambassador has left, Lyra said, joining him at the balustrade. He seemed quite pleased with our new treaty. Marcus nodded. They should be. Exclusive trade rights with Stellara in exchange for military protection is more than fair. And they accepted your resignation from the coalition forces without argument, Lyra added, still a note of surprise in her voice. Marcus chuckled. They didn't have much choice. Not after I showed them what the Guardian can do. Besides, they're getting a permanent human ambassador to Stellara in exchange. Is that all they're getting? Lyra asked, her violet eyes twinkling with mischief. Marcus turned to her fully. Lyra was dressed in formal Stellaran robes today, her platinum hair intricately braided with ceremonial beads that caught the sunset light. Her pink skin seemed to glow from within, especially where it contrasted with the white gold circlet of coronation on her brow. Queen Lyra, he said with mock formality. Are you implying my diplomatic skills weren't a sufficient bargaining chip? Lyra stepped closer, closing the distance between them. I'm implying, Commander Vega, that the coalition is getting far more than they realize. A direct line to the Guardian of Stellara, the man who single-handedly sealed the dimensional rifts. She paused, her expression softening. And my future consort. Marcus wrapped his arms around her waist, feeling that familiar surge of energy as their bodies touched. I still can't believe you convinced your council to accept a human as royal consort. They'd have been fools to object after what you did. Lyra tipped her head back to meet his gaze. Besides, the genetic compatibility our scientists discovered was rather compelling evidence that our union was cosmically ordained. Is that what we're calling it now? Marcus teased. Cosmic ordination? Would you prefer a prank that awoke latent powers? Lyra retorted. Because technically, that's still true. Marcus laughed, the sound echoing across the balcony. Either way, I'm grateful. For the prank, for the armor, for whatever brought me to you. Lyra rose on her toes to kiss him. a human custom she had adopted and thoroughly embraced. As am I, my guardian. They remain on the balcony as the last light of day faded from the sky, wrapped in each other's arms, no longer just a human soldier and an alien queen, but partners in every sense of the word, protectors of a world, and architects of a future neither of them could have imagined when a diplomatic mission first brought them together. In the distance, the first stars appeared no longer harbingers of darkness and fear, but symbols of possibility and connection. Somewhere out there, Earth continued its journey through the cosmos, now linked to Stellara not just through Marcus, but through a rediscovered, ancient lineage. To worlds, once separated by the vast gulfs of space and understanding, now bound together by the strongest force in any universe. A connection that began with a simple invitation to try on a dusty suit of armor, and ended with the salvation of a world, and the joining of two hearts beyond the stars. And so, this incredible adventure of Marcus and Lyra comes to a close. If you enjoyed this epic sci-fi story, please subscribe to the channel to show your support. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on future stories and new adventures. Share your favorite moment from this story with us in the comments below.